Hello, my name is Nathan Gullickson. I'll be talking about my experimental learning, which was taking a course at Tarleton State called The Natural History of the Vertebrates. This class started in July 11th, 2019, and ended on August 7th, 2019. The main objective of this course was to successfully survey vertebrate taxa, which was by learning the anatomy, the ecological importance, and the taxonomic history of vertebrate species. So what constitutes a vertebrate species is a ossified notochord, so a spinal cord that has vertebrae. Obviously, this includes most fish, all mammals, all reptiles and amphibians, and all birds. During this course, we took multiple field trips, a total of 4, and we learned to capture and identify vertebrate species using field books and dichotomous keys. The first trip was to the Bosque River in Stephenville, Texas. This is where we learned how to use the Smith-Reuter LR24, which works by sending electrical pulses through the water, which slightly paralyzes the fish so they can be caught. It's set up by running a certain amount of volts through it using a small golf cart battery, and you can set the duty cycles, which is how often each of those pulses through the water. What we caught was this nice looking channel catfish, a couple different kinds of bullheads, black and yellow, and a couple shiners. Also, we used a seine, which is a net tied across by 2 wooden poles. The bottom is weighted by lead weights, and the top has small little buoys, and it's relatively loose. So you scoop up with a partner, and then whatever you catch is in the net. The second trip was to Spring Ranch in Dripping Springs, Texas, just outside of Austin. The interesting part about this ranch was that it's all it's non-agricultural, and it's all for wildlife, and it's a very big private wildlife sanctuary. Basically, it's right outside of Austin, and there's a lot of development. So this was a very important ranch. We again electrofished and signed for fish. What we caught was a lot of red-tail shiner and black-tailed shiner, and we also caught Guadalupe bass and some fishes. We also used the Sherman traps for the first time on this trip, which is a metal, usually lightweight tin or lightweight aluminum box, which had a treadle attached to a door, which that treadle was then attached to a pressure plate, and by adjusting the treadle, it would release the door and slam it shut. So it was a live capture trap. This was mainly used to capture rodents, and our bait was oatmeal. What we caught was mainly from the genus Peromyscus, which is deer mice. And that was basically it for that trip. To identify these deer mice, we did use field books, mammal field books, and freshwater fish field books. The third trip was to Cherry Canyon Creek, owned by the same people as Shield Ranch. This was deep in the Davis Mountains out in West Texas, just outside of Fort Davis, Texas. The main thing that we did on this trip was we went what we called herping, which is searching for reptiles and amphibians under rocks or in aquatic areas. What we caught mainly was a bunch of Rio Grande southern leopard frogs, and we also caught a really cool black-necked garter snake, western black-necked garter snake. Also on this trip, for the first time, we went bird watching, which is using binoculars and silently walking, listening for birds and identifying them by characteristics, either by their calls or by their color, and then we use our field books to further find out what species we saw. And what we caught in the Sherman traps this time was a Hispidus cotton rat. That was practically the only thing we caught in the Sherman traps, mainly because a lot of people did not set the traps out properly, which you have to level and make sure that they don't wobble, because if they wobble, mice usually don't want to go into a wobbly trap. The final trip was to Gus Engling Wildlife Management Area. A wildlife management area is practically a place that's protected by either a state or federal government, and is to ensure that it's ecologically healthy for mainly recreation. It could be used, but it's mainly to make sure that wildlife can prosperly live there. We again electrofished and went sightting in creeks and swamps. This is out in East Texas, so a lot of swamp, a lot of muddy areas. We also went searching for reptiles, and this is where we caught a lot of, actually this is where we caught our only western cottonmouth and our eastern copperhead, two very venomous snakes. We also, for the first time, set up bat nets, which are basically two tall aluminum poles that are staked into the ground, and then there's bat nets stretched out across them. There's a lot of thread in these bat nets. They're also loose mainly because you don't want a bat flying in and bouncing right off. You want it to fly in and then hopefully get tangled or get caught into a little cup or cubby. We again went bird watching and heard wide-eyed herons, and we then again set more Sherman traps in this area, and we again found Hispidus cotton rats. What we caught for fishes were a bunch of mad toms. We did catch pirate perches, carp suckers, some peckerels, and a bunch of shiners, different kinds of shiners. So the importance of learning this, what I learned on this, in this class, and how it carries on to what I want to become what I want to do in my career, is I want to be an environmental consultant. So first I'll have to start off as a field technician most likely, and then work my way up. A field technician will most likely have to do a lot of what we did, capture different kinds of animals, identify plants and animal species. The reason why they need this information is so that if a client wants to build something on their property, or they want to gain access to a property, they need to know what's on the property, so they know what the ecological harm is to their property or somebody else's property. So conservational laws are very important. So the two main conservation laws that the information that a field technician would gather is for both Endangered Species Act, which is a list of animals that are protected by either state or federal governments, and also to understand their home range on a property, and whether or not there's more future habitats. So that, and also the National Environmental Policy Act. Knowing what human actions do to the environment is very important. So the information that we gather is important to set up environmental impact statements and environmental assessments, so we can further know what not to do or what to do, or whether or not a project should happen or not happen. And that is basically what I learned in this class. Thank you.